You are listening to Pacific Beer Chat. We are a collective of West Coast beer bloggers sharing our opinions on events, issues, and well-crafted brews. We discuss both local and international issues and aim to educate and entertain. We are a part of the Hopped Up Network. Hey, this is Mike of Mike's Craft Beer. Just wanted to thank Kevin Ems of Conundrum for allowing us to use one of his songs in the intro, and for allowing us to use the entire song in the outro. So if you like the sound of the intro, please check out the outro. Here is my episode on 9 Mile Legacy in Saskatoon. Alright, I found myself out in Saskatoon today. I'm at 9 Mile Legacy. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Shawn Moen. I'm one of the co-founders along with my business partner Garrett Peterson.
Perfect. So what got you into craft beer?
Oh boy. Saskatchewan's kind of an interesting spot. We've homebrewed for the better part of a decade. A big reason why we did is we just couldn't get great beer.
Yeah.
There was some really early guys in the marketplace. The grandfathers would be Bushwhacker and Paddockwood, and we loved the beer that they made. But in order to really experiment with styles and check out different types of beer, you either had to order it in from abroad, which was challenging in this province, or you make your own. So we just fell in love with making different styles and experimenting and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So are you from Saskatoon originally?
Originally, we're both from south part of the province. Our name is a reference to our two family farms. So 100 years ago, our families homesteaded 9 miles apart. Farms are still there, still 9 miles apart.
Nice.
And as we we're getting serious about our business and thinking about our partnership, we realized that every generation of our families have worked together. And so we thought a bit about why that was and how that informed our business. And it's really a common approach to community and neighborhood and that sort of thing. So that's 9 Mile Legacy.
Awesome.
Yep.
So you didn't start in this location. Where did you guys start?
We started about a block and a half away, essentially in a janitor's closet. It was we came across a spot by the farmers market, and they had a kitchen area that was decommissioned and wasn't being used, and it wasn't rentable. So we ended up taking it over along with a retail storefront, and we started a nano brewery. We started making 100 liters at a time, literally 2 50-liter kegs at a time. So as I tell people on our tours, your listeners will already know this, but as I tell people on our tours, it takes the same amount of time to brew 100 liters as it does 100,000 liters.
Yep.
So we just worked hard. That's all we did for a year and a half. We put 550 cycles on that brewery.
That's awesome.
In a year and a half, which was silly. But
And is there a story to why you picked this location, or was it just available at the time?
this is for those of you who haven't visited Saskatoon and are familiar with places like Vancouver. This neighborhood's a lot like Commercial Drive in my view.
Okay.
It's there are comparisons made to Gastown. I don't really buy that comparison. This is a kind of a multi-use neighborhood that has a lot of history. Riversdale used to be the downtown in Saskatoon, and then it fell on hard times for a few decades, and is now starting to be a little bit reinvigorated. Largely as the result of small business moving in and changes being made. It's always a challenge when that happens, as you'd know in Vancouver, where you have to be respectful of the people that are already in the neighborhood. You have to be their neighbors, and I think that there's successes and failures in every neighborhood that's being rejuvenated. I like Riversdale because it's I think we're trying to do things the right way, but not everybody would perhaps share the same view. It depends on your perspective,
Yeah,
right?
for sure that happens.
So why did we pick it? We saw opportunity, we saw a lot of history, a lot of character, and it just fit what we were doing.
Nice. And I mean, those neighborhoods that are kind of struggling are usually the best spots for breweries because it drives.
Don't you see that in every city?
Oh,
when
yeah.
you've got a neighborhood, whether it's Colorado, in Denver, Colorado, where you've got Lodo, rejuvenates, and there's microbreweries all over the place. You've got Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You've got Commercial Drive,
Exactly.
and I don't think any of that is a coincidence. With breweries, neighborhood breweries, you employ people, you contribute significantly to the local building stock. We ended up investing when we had the fortunate opportunity to buy this location. It was a knockdown when we bought it. We invested $900,000 into it, including improvements and brewing equipment. That's a significant investment in a community.
Oh, for sure.
And then people love beer, and they love coming down for their growlers or coming down for a glass of beer in the tap room. that brings more people in. So
definitely
I don't
does.
think it's a coincidence that you see breweries at the heart of this reinvigoration of communities.
Yeah, that's happened everywhere.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your system? Do you know the brew house size and your brewing capacity?
You bet. Yeah, we our brew house is a 5-barrel system, so we're still small.
Yeah.
And I think what we became, you can't always pick what you become in business. You have to embrace it. And we became known for doing a lot of variety. We've probably brewed about 50 different styles since we started. 5 barrels in this province anyway is a size that allows you to be nimble and not overreach. And whereas in the coast it would be a bit different. We'll probably hit about 700 barrels this year, and we'll tap out in this location at about 2,000 barrels. So we'll have to decide at that point whether that's where we want our business to stay, or whether we want to continue to evolve and grow. And
for sure,
and
not every brewery has to be massive.
No, I think there's really good examples of that on the coast where you've got breweries that are elbowing to be massive and not always hitting it out of the park on the quality side. Agreed. And you've got some guys that are small and scrappy, and the beer is just awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
And and they're able to live happy, profitable lives too. So it just depends on how it all shakes down.
Maybe semi-profitable.
Semi-profitable. That's always the brewing industry. Yeah. We don't do this. My background is as a lawyer, and Garrett's is as an environmental engineering tech.
Yeah.
There are easier ways to make money than starting a brewery.
Oh hell yeah, there definitely is. I guess, how does this brewery stand out against the other breweries in Saskatchewan or Saskatoon? What is your niche here?
That's a really good question. I think there's a lot of people. Saskatchewan's kind of seen this renaissance of brewing in the last couple of years, where you've got a lot of really quality producers. Guys like Jeff Allport at Nokomis, who he's a West Coast guy, moved out to a small town called Nokomis and started a brewery.
Never even heard of it.
Killer stuff. Try some when you're in the city.
Yeah.
Blackbridge Brewing is another one in Swift Current down in the south part. They've got great beer, and Multinational in Regina too is doing some really good stuff. And there's a number of other ones. How do we stand out? I think our beer is definitely in the conversation with all of these other breweries. I think it's very a subjective thing to say that we're the best beer. Everybody's going to disagree, but I think that we're all constantly trying to achieve excellence with our product. I think that one thing we focus on here is really being part of our community and part of Good Neighbors, and a lot of those businesses do too. But as an example, tonight we've got an event with the Saskatchewan Waste Reduction Council where we have made a beer from food waste, and we're trying to highlight the amount of food waste that occurs. We're trying to be more than a brewery in a sense. We're trying to be a active community participant that happens to make beer. If that makes sense.
Are you able to talk a little bit more about this food waste beer you're doing?
Yeah, it's weird. It's so we did it last year too, and typically the concept is trying to have all of the ingredients, stuff that would otherwise be thrown away or go down the drain. And so what we'll typically do, and we did this last year along with this year, is the malt base is the second runnings of a big beer. So last year we did a barley wine, and we had the second runnings. This year it was a Belgian strong with Galaxy hops. So kind of a Belgian-y IPA, but maybe a double IPA, depending where the alcohol's sat. From there, we take a look at our neighbors, our restaurant neighbors, and try to look at what they might be throwing away and incorporate it. So this one has cherry pits. It has Thai basil stem and mint stem. And so you end up with this really aromatic cherry nose. This year's edition is... it's interesting because it's got a really chalky bitter end as a result of those cherry pits, but then you see some basil and mint hints going to it. Yeah, it's an interesting beer. I think that's the best way to describe it, and it always is with that project. Last year it was more, I think it was carrot peels and some ginger nubs, and it was a really it was a session beer that was really interesting. And it's just fun to play with the concept, for sure. And kind of show people that.
I've never heard of anyone doing it before.
So we'll do second runnings on the mash. We'll re-pitch our hops, and we'll take yeast from another batch. And so the idea is this beer wouldn't exist. Otherwise, we just have to find the ingredients and put it together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. And so we try to find partnerships like that. So whether we're working with the local jazz orchestra or we're working with the local improv group, or we're across the street, we do a collaboration as well with our good clients at Odd Couple, where we do an Asian-inspired beer with Szechuan pepper, lemongrass, and ginger. So it's looking at ways to work with our neighbors,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
and kind of draw inspiration from each other.
That sounds really interesting.
I don't know if that answers. I'm very long-winded in answering all these questions.
Hey, I'm great with that. So it looks like it, but are you just draft only, or do you package any beer?
We're working on packaging right now, just kind of finalizing our labels and organizing ourselves. We'll probably do bombers, how we'll start, just because it's capital cost is relatively low. You know, it's the funny thing with breweries, like we've just come out of this expansion, everything costs so much, so you got to find your spots and how it's economical to do it. But right now, people can come in and get growlers. They can have glasses or flights of beer, and we have about 30 accounts in the city or so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How's the reception been so far for the brewery?
Oh man, we've been always blown away by the amount of reception we've had from our clientele. I think there are people. This is a province where I grew up in a small town where our beer was Pilsner, made by Molson Canadian. If you didn't drink Pilsner, you didn't know what beer was.
Yeah.
Garrett's town, the rival town, was Bohemian. Same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so we have people coming from up down home that want to see the brewery and support us.
Yeah.
Haven't been exposed to things like an oatmeal stout or a double IPA, and once that crowd comes and wants to support us and they taste it, they fall in love with their own style. So some guys will love the malty beer, some will love the hoppy beer, some just want the weird stuff. And so you asked about reception. We've benefited from a lot of local enthusiasm, and they happen to be craft beer drinkers that don't know they're craft beer drinkers yet.
Yeah.
So rather than opening up in a place where the craft beer industry is already developed and people are going to congregate because we're a brewery, they're coming to us for different reasons and supporting us all the same. So it's been interesting. And you know, I think for people to have put up with us when we were making one barrel at a time and constantly running out of beer and kept coming to the brewery, that's pretty awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the beer itself. Do you have a core lineup of beer?
Kind of.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we do. We have about 6 to 8 beer that will rotate through seasonality, because once you start to have accounts, they expect some regularity. So right now, the ones that you can reliably get at our accounts are our Belgian Blonde, our Australian Pale Ale / IPA. It's kind of one of these wonderful beer that isn't quite hoppy enough and dank enough to be an IPA, but it's hoppier than a Pale Ale. We've got a oatmeal stout that's available, and then we've got what we call a Marzen-inspired amber ale. So we wanted to play around with the Marzen style, but as a lot of craft brewers didn't have a lot of time to let things lager, so we hit it with an American ale yeast, and the result was really cool. So we call it hybrid vigor, which is a farming term around here. When you have animals or plants that you've crossbred, usually they're stronger than your purebred because of hybrid vigor. You know, and so that was the concept with that Marzen, where it wasn't something that would ordinarily exist by nature, but
that's awesome.
But here we are. So beyond that, we've brewed about 50 different beer. Our small size has always allowed us to continually experiment. The weirdest one we've probably done, it was funny, Joe Weeb was visiting us in our first year, and we had a beet saison on. It looked like cream soda and tasted like beet, and Joe's line was, "This is the best beet beer I've ever had." You know,
I've only heard of about 2 names. It's probably 3 now.
That's right. Yeah,
that's too funny. Good old Joe.
Yeah.
I think my favorite that I tried was the Backroads. Can you quickly speak on that?
Sure, yeah. It was a collaboration with our good friend Alicia Esmail of Road Coffee. Alicia's just she's kind of grown up alongside of us with her business, and we were looking for a reason to collaborate together. It's a coffee porter with lactose, and we call it a coffee porter with 2 sugars because my business partner, the head brewer, loves to have his lattes with 2 sugars. So that was the inspiration for the beer, and it was just a good reason to get together with Alicia and do something fun.
That's awesome. What's your favorite beer that you guys make?
That's a good question.
What should someone be looking for?
Everything is so context dependent, you know. And
totally.
But I think right now, our oatmeal stout is my favorite. That's what I'm reaching for. It is. I find it's a 4% stout. We've designed it in a way that it's not going to fill you up too much, but it's still got some really nice roast notes, and the oatmeal smooths it out too. So that's one. If I'm grabbing a growler to go home for the night, I'll grab the stout. Yep.
Do you have a favorite beer from another local brewery or anywhere else, really?
Yeah, I'll give a couple of different answers to this. The double IPA that Blackbridge does is really, really good, and we can get that fairly reliably in Saskatoon. Every time I'm in Regina, I try to stop by Multinational. They are very eclectic, maybe more eclectic than we are, but I find I find breweries are a lot like musicians in a way. You get to the point with some musicians where you just buy their album.
Yeah.
Because you know it's going to be interesting. Bob Dylan's a great example of that. It's always weird, but it's awesome. So I would say beyond the local market, we've, for whatever reason, at one of our liquor stores have a really reliable supply of Tilken Oud Goose. And it is just killer, you know, so it's always in my fridge. Yeah.
You're not going to go wrong with that.
No.
What's the beer scene like in Saskatoon? There seems to be a couple breweries here now.
It's growing. Yeah, you're coming at a time where I think we've got about 5 breweries, and we've got 2 more that aren't born quite yet, but are just in utero, I suppose. It's a marketplace where when we first started out in 2015, I think our market research suggested we were about 2 to 3% of the total beer sales from a craft perspective.
Yeah.
We're probably just a bit more than that right now. We've got a lot of high quality producers, but it's nothing like BC.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, from a quality perspective, I think we're punching with a lot of those. A lot of the quality you'll see out there.
Sure.
I don't know. You'll form your own opinion about having tasted our stuff. But that's the best way I can describe this scene. Saskatchewan's a marketplace where, kind of drawing on my story from people coming from back home, they haven't necessarily experienced the full breadth of craft beer, and so they might not know just yet. And I say that really respectfully, because I think Saskatchewan people are just like any other people. We like quality things. We like high, we like to treat ourselves, and we like high quality people. And if you've got a well-made local product, people really get behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's no different with beer. Yeah.
Totally. Do you have any exciting events or anything coming up for the brewery?
Oh, it seems we're a little punch drunk because we're coming off of the summer. We do a fun release every Christmas. We do a Belgian strong that's about 10% called Holiday Cheer. That's made with some local plums and vanilla. And so from a beer perspective, that's probably the most exciting thing that'll hit hopefully late November. From a project standpoint, it seems like it's just a constant flurry. Like, we've gone, in the last 12 months, we've gone from 4 people to 9 people.
Okay.
We've increased our capacity by about 5 times, and we've settled into a brand new space. And so within the space, we've got a lot of fun things. We've just got a piano, so we'll have some music nights with one of our staff members. We've got a local chef that does kind of a dim sum style service of small bites, which is really, really fun. And we just kind of, it's hard to catch our breath these days. So
yeah, all across the world, I think. Right now,
I think
the beer industry.
I think it is. It's a wonderful, it's a precious thing, I think. Yeah. And it's something that we can really fumble if we are not committed to quality.
Absolutely.
And that goes for all of our colleagues in the brewing industry. We all have to be committed to quality, because if one of us is just putting out stuff to put out stuff, it can really damage all of us, and that's not an uncommon thing. I'm sure you've.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Is anything else about the brewery that you'd like to share?
Oh boy.
As we kind of wrap it up here.
Well, it's been a real pleasure doing this with my friend Garrett. I mentioned kind of the basis for our name. It is awesome to design a business around your joint family history. Like, we've got a lot of. When you take a look around here, we've got a lot of wood. That's a lot of barn wood from my mom's family's barn. Or we've got screens from my dad's seed cleaner plant. There's little aspects of your family history that remind you of where you came from. It also puts a lot of pressure on you to do things right, both in terms of making quality product and conducting yourself in the right way, because literally your family's always looking at you.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's probably the most special thing about 9 Mile for me.
That's awesome. Where can people find you guys online?
We are at 9milelegacy.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook. We're not terribly good at updating our Untapped, but we have a presence there. So apologies if things are confusing there.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Otherwise, when you're in town, please stop by the brewery. We're open from Tuesday to Sunday, and we'd love for you to come in and chat over a flight.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. Find our show on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, YouTube, or your favorite podcast site or app at Pacific Beer Chat. Please leave us a review, as it helps spread the word about the show and helps new listeners find our episodes. You can find Pacific Beer Chat on social media at Pacific Beer Chat on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Send us an email at feedback@pacificbeerchat.com with any feedback or comments. We'd love to hear from you. You can also find us at pacificbeerchat.com. We are part of the Hopped Up Network, an international craft beer podcast network. If you enjoy this craft beer focused show or any other craft beer focused shows, check out hoppedupnetwork.com. And thanks to Tim of craftbeertourist.com for designing our brand new logo. Thanks to Kevin Ems of Conundrum for allowing us to use the song Lothian in the intro to the podcast. You can find Conundrum on Instagram and Facebook at Music of Conundrum. You can also find them at conundrum-music.bandcamp.com. To play us out, here is the full version of Lothian. Cheers.
That pathway every night, I sang and cried at the moon. The lessons learned on those walks were lessons learned too soon. To all those I leave behind, and all those chances cast adrift, all the possible outcomes, I now gladly sacrifice. Now reflecting on that path, all of my marches through the dark, I found out so much then, so much more than I cared to know. I wanted you so badly by my side, I cursed our time apart.